You're mad.
Thank goodness for that, because if I wasn't, this would probably never work.
Hello, and welcome back to more Films Under Constant Critique, where we take a look at films, some good, some bad, and some downright awful. I'm Bongo Baikov, joined by our host, Maverick Drenzaria. This week, we're taking a look at the film Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End.
You know, from the title, you'd think this would be the last one.
Nope, we got, there's two more after it.
Yeah, they're like, nope, money. So this was released May 25th, 2007. Holy shit, I think that's like the 30th anniversary of when the original Star Wars came out.
Oh, really? Huh.
At World's End cost $300 million and made $963 million.
That's pretty good.
So it didn't make quite as much as Dead Man's Chest, but that didn't matter because it was still the highest grossing film of 2007. I have to ask, like, how the fuck did this series go from being super popular, making this much money, to people just not caring about it that much now?
It's pretty impressive because you had, those first three, which were all super strong, and then you had 4 and 5, and then the series just died.
The fourth one also made a lot of money, too. The fourth one made like $1 billion. So the tagline for At World's End was, "At the end of the world, the adventure begins."
Ooh, clever.
Okay. Initial thoughts.
So I didn't quite remember much about the movie. I knew sort of the general plot, but I didn't really remember how well I liked it before this. But I came out thinking that it's pretty fun. It's pretty good. It keeps up a lot of the weirdness that the first two movies had. It doesn't really introduce as much as, say the second movie did. But I think it does a pretty good job of wrapping up a lot of the plot points that movie brought up. And a lot of the actors get pretty memorable performances in this one. Just about everyone has time to shine, including some of the minor characters, which is nice.
Yeah. So, yeah, I did see this one after the first two, obviously. I can't remember how long after the second movie that I saw this one. It was probably not that long afterwards, I would assume. I actually don't quite remember what I thought of it the first time I saw it. I think I thought it was good, but not great. Like, it wasn't as good as the first two movies, but it was fine. What I mainly remembered about this movie, though, is I actually used to have like a storybook of this movie.
Really?
And it came with a toy compass like the one Jack has in these movies. And it also had like a viewfinder thing on it. You could put like those things in and see like pictures from the movie in it.
Oh, one of those things.
I think I might have gotten a garage sale. I don't have it anymore, unfortunately, but I think I still have the Happy Meal toy of Davy Jones somewhere, but in one of the chests. But yeah, so going into this one, not having seen it in a long time, like I couldn't remember as much of this one as the first two. Like I remembered that a lot of it took place on the ship, and there were a lot of ship battles. Because in the first two, it seemed like they were on land more in those ones.
Yeah.
And I remembered like the sword fight up on the sails between Jones and Jack. I basically just did not remember much of the movie. So I was kind of going in expecting this one might not hold up that well in some regards, and the reviews for it also weren't very good. Like, it's considered like the worst of the first three, at least from what I can tell. And also, I was worried because it's super fucking long.
Yeah, no, it is. It's a beast of a movie.
It's a nearly 3-hour movie. It's the second longest movie we've done on the podcast. Like, it's 2 hours, 48 minutes. It did not quite beat The Batman, but it was close. So I knew it wasn't gonna be as good as the first one, but yeah. So then I watched it, and this is without a doubt the longest and weirdest pirate movie I have ever heard of.
But you have heard of it.
But you have heard of it, yes. And the fact that this was made by Disney is astounding to me. Like, the first scene of this movie is people getting hanged, including a child.
Yeah.
It's just... It's weird, it's kind of fucked up and gloomy. I liked it, though. It has some of the same problems as the first two movies, but doubled. And it also has some of the best things about the first two movies, but doubled.
Yeah.
It is very long and very grandiose, but it is enjoyable. It's not as good as the first two, but I still liked it, so... And it would have been a good ending to the series if they hadn't made the next two movies. So the cast, I think all the cast members from the first two movies return in this.
Yeah, all the major cast is here.
Like Johnny Depp's in it, Jeffrey Rush is in it.
Orlando Bloom, Keira Knightley, Stellan Skarsgård.
Yeah, Stone Skarsgård, Bill Nighy is in it. I think this is the last this was the last movie of the series to have Orlando Bloom and Keira Knightley in it. They kind of get their... Well, I forgot they were in the fifth one, sorry.
Yeah, don't they? Isn't it just like a quick...
It's so
cameo,
brief, though. It's so
Yeah.
brief, though. They're barely in it, especially Keira Knightley. But yes, Orlando, that is a main plot point, is that Orlando Bloom's son is trying to save him from a curse or whatever, which you haven't seen that before in this series. Jesus fucking Christ. One thing I find funny is that Bill Nighy was in both this and the Edgar Wright movie, The World's End.
Oh, really?
Yep, he's in both of these movies. I thought that was funny. We do get a new addition with Chow Yun-fat. He's a pretty famous Hong Kong action star. One of his most famous roles is in Hard Boiled.
Okay.
Which, that movie is insane. It has the most insane hospital shootout I have ever seen in a movie. It's ridiculous. I can't remember if there are any other new additions to the cast or not, but...
There's a couple minor characters and a pretty important cameo that we get, but...
Oh, that's right, yes. Yep, we'll be talking about him, that's for sure. Yeah, Norrington came back, Gibbs came back, Calypso... Well, she was called Tia Dalma in the previous one, but apparently she's actually Calypso.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
And Beckett is also in it.
Yep.
Okay. Among many, many others. It would be way too long to list every character. Hans Zimmer did the music again. And I would like to issue a correction with the first movie. So I said he didn't do the music for the first one. That's technically not true. He actually did compose a few tracks.
Oh, okay.
For Curse of the Black Pearl, including the main theme.
Okay, that makes sense.
So that's a huge... so he was quite a huge contributor to the soundtrack of the first movie.
Yeah, yeah.
But the rest of the score, like, he did he composed the main theme and 2 other tracks, but the rest of the score was another guy that wasn't Hans Zimmer. This movie was nominated for 2 Oscars: Best Makeup and Best Visual Effects.
Yeah, that makes sense.
The Dead Man's Chest, I think, won Best Visual Effects. At least I hope it did, because, I mean, Jesus Christ. At World's End did not win either of these categories, but what's funny is it lost Best Visual Effects to The Golden Compass, which I have to say, the CGI in that movie has aged a lot worse than the CGI in this movie. So that one didn't pan out. And also that movie is way worse than this.
I remember watching just like this show on YouTube where the running joke is there's this character that's an asshole whose favorite movie is The Golden Compass.
It was apparently was that Roger Ebert possibly, because he gave it 4 out of 4 stars.
Really?
Yes. Better than all the Lord of the Rings movies, according to Roger Ebert. What was that series called?
Oh, it was like it was the stupid Mario Brothers. They made Wario a fan of The Golden Compass.
Nice. I'll have to look that up at some point. Is Charlie Day in it?
Sadly, no.
My favorite Luigi Mario. I could not find, speaking of Roger Ebert, I could not find his review for At World's End or Dead Man's Chest, but I did find his review of On Stranger Tides.
Okay.
If you want me to read that, which he gave that one 2 stars out of 4. He described that one as too much of a muchness. The whole series was inspired by a ride at Disneyland. There's a bright side to that. At least no movie has yet been inspired by It's a Small World. And you know, I agree with him. I would not want to see that as a movie.
No, that'd be pretty terrible.
I mean, we've already gotten, 2 movies based on Haunted Mansion? For fuck's sake. I'm just waiting for the Epcot movie. I mean, when's the Epcot movie gonna come out?
We're getting that within the next few years. It'll be part of the Disney ride cinematic universe. They're gonna tie it into Pirates.
And Jungle Cruise. They'll tie it into Jungle Cruise somehow.
They won't be able to get Johnny Depp back, so they'll just have a CGI Captain Jack Sparrow show up every now and again.
Oh my god. Do you want... Okay, Leonard Maltin. I found his review for At World's End.
I'm gonna say he also gave it a 2 out of 4.
I think he gave it 2 out of 4.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Same rating he gave The Dark Knight.
Yes.
The same rating he gave Taxi Driver and The Shining.
Yes.
Higher than what he gave Blade Runner. But
Yes.
lower than what he gave
Batman Forever.
and Man of Steel. Okay, I'll quit torturing you. He gave it 1.5 out of 4 stars. This movie is on the same level as Blade Runner, according to him. But not as good as some of those other movies. He called it 7 Leagues of Boredom. Convoluted and interminable sequel is just another soulless product. I mean, are we that surprised he didn't like this one? I mean, to be fair, this was the gloomiest of them.
Yeah.
Offering precious little joie de vivre or entertainment despite the almost non-stop action. Even the Rolling Stones' Keith Richards, as Depp's even more grungy father, can't liven things up. For comparison, okay, so he gave the first one 2.5 out of 4. He gave Dead Man's Chest 2 stars. And so he gave this one 1.5. He gave On Stranger Tides 2 out of 4.
Really?
And thankfully he did hate Dead Men Tell No Tales.
Okay, that's good.
He thought that one was boring and ended his review of that one by saying, I'd rather walk the plank than spend another 2 hours with Jack Sparrow and company. But who knows, maybe they'll do a sixth one.
Oh, they'll find a way to do it.
Okay, so getting back to At World's End, the plot of this one involves pirates.
Shocking. Are they in the Caribbean?
Yes, they are. And there's also flat earth conspiracies in this. This is the tale of Captain Jack Sparrow, a pirate so brave on the seven seas. From the day he was born, he yearned for adventure. He's the pauper of the surf, the jester. Okay, well,
what are you reading?
I was gonna reference the Lonely Island song at some point. Okay.
Ah.
Look, copyright. I can't include the actual song. But anyway, so the plot of this one is they have to go to the ends of the earth to resurrect Jack. Because he got taken by the Kraken, also known as Amber Heard. It took us this long to do an Amber Heard joke. Wow. Meanwhile, they once again have to deal with Beckett and evil octopus crab man Davy Jones.
And the entirety of the East India Trading Company.
Yes. And in order to stop them, they have to band together with a council of pirates led by our favorite immortal guitarist, Keith Richards. And there's a lot more I could mention, but it would get too complicated. And we have a lot to talk about this one.
Yes.
Maybe too much. My notes for this are so fucking long. Okay, start with pros, I guess.
So the intro, I think, does a very good job of... Yes. It does a very good job at setting up part of the main plot, and it's pretty memorable.
Yeah, they're basically just hanging a bunch of people.
Convicted of piracy. Alright, not even convicted, that's right, they've just been accused.
And one of them's a kid, apparently, so they hung a kid in a Disney movie.
But apparently this is what the East India Trading Company wanted. Because the guy in charge of it, was pretty happy that they started singing so that he could get all of the pirates. It's a little... I'll get into this with the cons, but it's a little unclear exactly what it is this guy wants.
Yeah, what do they want? Yeah. I mean, to be fair, okay, the original movie, what did the British want in that one?
Well, in that one, they were just trying to stop pirates, and I guess that's kind of what the East India Company's doing here. But they want to stop pirates and rule the ocean so that they can make money. The true villain was capitalism all along.
The British Empire is apparently the villain of the... Is this like some commentary on imperialism? Is that what... Okay, I wonder, would Disney do this nowadays? Okay, so... Whenever a Disney movie is, trying to include capitalism, I mean, fuck off. Really.
It's the pot calling the kettle black.
Yeah, while we're at it, Hannibal Lecter just opened up a vegan restaurant. But yeah, it's a really dour opening. Doesn't feel like a Pirates movie, but it does make the villains feel like an actual threat, so...
Yeah.
There's that. But again... Remember, this scene, it's the first scene of a Disney movie.
And they hang a kid.
And they made toys of this movie, too. Oh, I love it. I also find it impressive that Johnny Depp was able to escape him. God damn it. Okay, another Amber Heard joke. He was able to escape both the Kraken and Amber Heard.
He wasn't quite able to escape. He was swallowed up and taken to the locker.
Or wait, are the Kraken and Amber Heard the same person, possibly? Anyway. I like the part when Michael Bolton showed up and started singing about Jack Sparrow. Oh, wait, the Lonely Island. Sorry. Getting into the actual... there's more Barbossa in this movie, which is cool.
Yeah, he's a pretty main character, and this time he's on the side of the good guys.
Kind of.
The good guys who are pirates.
That's something I'll get into later, but the good guys in this aren't really good guys.
They're just the least bad guys.
So, Barbossa, I mean, this dude has had a really long life at this point. I mean...
Yeah.
I kind of love that they basically just pulled, like, a Duncan Idaho on him. They're like... He died in the first one, but then people loved him so much that they resurrected him. And he's in the entire series. And yeah, Jeffrey Rush is fun as that character. There's one of my favorite lines from this movie is when they're about to go rescue Jack. He says,
"Trust me, young Master Terror. It's not getting to the land of the dead that's the problem. It's getting back."
Which, that's coming from a guy who came back from the dead, so if anybody knows, it would be him. Then again, you can just tell Jeffrey Rush was having fun playing this character. Yeah. There really was just no reason to bring him back in any of these movies, because he's not only in the first 3, he's also in the 4th one and the 5th one.
Yeah, no, he shows up in everything. The only person that shows up more than him is Jack.
And in the 4th one, he's not even a pirate; he's a privateer. I'm like, what the hell's this? Okay. And I said, it was a comment I made when we were doing the Dead Man's Chest podcast, is there were a lot of pirates in that movie. And little did I know there's even more.
There's a ton of pirates in this one.
There's a whole council of pirates in this.
With 9 pirate lords.
Yeah, and there's Chinese pirates in this one, which that's interesting.
There's the French pirates of the Mediterranean.
And the Chinese pirates, they're led by Chow Yun-fat. I like how when they're talking to him in his first scene, he says he hates Jack Sparrow, and he says that the only reason he'd bring him back from the land of the dead is so he could send him back himself. I was like, oh damn. They're gonna get along swimmingly, aren't they? And he was a fun character, I thought. I could have used more of Chow Yun-fat in this movie.
Yeah, he's really only in the intro and then sort of in the middle for a little while before he dies.
Yeah, because then he dies and, like, he basically makes Elizabeth the captain of the Chinese pirates.
Yeah.
What a twist. There's some good cinematography in this one. There was one shot when the ship was sailing at night with all the stars that I thought looked really neat. And when the ship is, like, upside down in the water.
Yeah, no, that was a pretty cool shot.
Yeah, and the camera, yeah, that was cool.
So, overall, the movie is a lot darker, but a lot of stuff in the beginning.
And also the shot of the ship sailing on the sand dunes is really memorable.
Oh, yeah. So, the movie overall has, like, a darker tone, but there's a lot of the comedy sort of at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah, there's
like
some
when
funny lines. I was laughing at quite a lot of this movie.
There's also quite a few gags, like when they're sailing through the, sort of like the iceberg, and the one pirate looks at his toe and it accidentally breaks it off.
Yeah, I remember that. They're, like, all frozen and stuff.
Yeah.
That was good. I liked that. And I also liked some of the settings in this one, like when they go to, they're like at like the North Pole or something, or is it Antarctica? I wasn't sure which one it was, but
I'm gonna say it's north because that's slightly more survivable.
that's closer to. Which one's closer to the Caribbean?
It would be the north.
Okay, so it's probably that one then. Good music score by Hans Zimmer in this one. You can definitely tell they were trying to make this movie feel huge and epic, and the music certainly helps in that regard. And there are a lot of battle scenes that are really elaborate. You can again tell where the money was spent.
Yeah. A lot of the fights were pretty fun. They seemed to be a bit more spread out than they were in the last movie, because the last movie it really felt like there was one gigantic fight at the end. But this one we have some fights at the beginning of the movie, some smaller things in the middle, and then a gigantic one at the end.
The main one I always remember is the end with Davy Jones fighting Jack Sparrow up on the sails. That's a really cool sword fight.
Although I do really like the sword fight, or the just entire fight when they're in Singapore.
Is that what part of the movie is that during? Is that like towards?
So that's like the very beginning when Barbossa and Elizabeth go to meet with the pirates, and then the East India Trading Company shows up.
Right. Okay. Yeah. I like how during the sword fight between Jack and Davy Jones, like he cuts off some of Jones's tentacle beard.
Yeah.
That's a really epic sword fight too.
Yeah.
Or Jones like breaks Jack's sword with his claw hand. And once again, Davy Jones is like really good in this one. I would say especially in this one, because in this one you get a little more character development for him. And he gets to do more in this one than in Dead Man's Chest.
Yeah. Which, I think it's great getting more of him like that, but he's also not really the main villain of this movie either, which is sort of weird.
Yeah, Beckett's the main villain, technically. Or am I forgetting somebody? Besides...
Yeah, no, Beckett's definitely the main villain of this one.
There's a lot of characters to keep track of in this movie. I like the Davy Jones. I like that he also kills people with his tentacles. Like he shoves his tentacles in a dude's nose.
Yeah.
I was like, that's so gross. But I mean, if you have tentacles,
You might as
on
well
your
use
face, yeah, you might as well do that with them. And the CGI again on Davy Jones is really good. He plays the organ with his tentacle beard again. And we see him show a little emotion when he listens to like the music box thing and cries a bit.
Yeah.
Before just instantly getting angry. But he gets more character development in this one, because in this one it's revealed that he basically got dumped by a sea goddess.
Yes, named Calypso.
Who turns out to be the witch from the previous movie, Tia Dalma.
Yep.
And Tia Dalma basically spends most of the movie just making ominous comments to the main characters.
I mean, to be fair, that's basically what she did in the last movie, too.
True, but she had a little... Well, she does get some plot purpose eventually in this movie, but that was... Yeah. She, like, turns into... She like, becomes giant and then turns into mountains of CGI crabs. There's a lot of weird visuals in this one, we have to point out.
And some of my favorite set of weird visuals are when we see Jack within Davy Jones' locker.
Oh my god. Okay, let's talk about that scene. Okay, the first shot we see of Jack is already weird because you like just see his nose sniffing a peanut. And he keeps eating peanuts throughout this movie.
Yeah, throughout this whole movie.
It's weird. Like, I don't really remember him doing that. Did he replace his consumption of rum with a consumption of peanuts, like, sometime? Did Amber Heard put him on a diet or something?
And we see that the whole ship is crewed by many Captain Jack Sparrows.
Okay. This felt like something out of an avant-garde film. Like,
It's really strange.
Did Alejandro Jodorowsky help make this scene? Like, it's so weird because he has a bunch of clones. One of them acts like a chicken.
One of them's in love with a goat.
Yeah, you got goat fucker Jack.
You got the Jack who can't tie knots that gets shot. No, wait, no, that one gets stabbed. It was a different Jack that gets shot.
What the fuck was this? It was so jarring, especially after how dark and serious the beginning of this movie was, and then all of a sudden we're just with Jack, like
going insane.
or with Jack and Jack and Jack and Jack and a bunch of other Jacks. Like, what is going on?
And it's not the last time in the movie we get multiple Jacks either.
Yes, we'll get. Do you want to talk about that too? How he's got the Kronk thing going on?
So later in the movie, after everyone's sort of showing up to the locker and they're trying to figure out how to get back, Jack's looking at the map and suddenly he's got two smaller Jacks on his shoulders, debating whether or not to stab Davy Jones' heart and take his place. And you're totally right. It is just Kronk from The Emperor's New Groove.
Yeah. Or like that episode of SpongeBob where with the donuts, where he's got the the two donuts talking. It's so weird. Why is it? And the first two movies already had weird parts, especially the second one, but this one just dials up the weirdness.
It's so weird. And then again later in the movie, towards the end, Jack's like in a brig, and two more imaginary Jacks show up to keep discussing it. And then a third imaginary Jack, who is like barnacle encrusted, also shows up.
Oh my god. That was so gross. He's like licking a heart or something. What?
No, it was his brain, because he eventually drops it. And he yells out, "Nobody move, I've lost me brain."
Yep, I remember that.
It's such a weird movie.
And another thing about that first scene with the Jack, when he's talking to all his clones on that boat, he's like captain to a crew of Jacks. That's another thing.
Yeah.
But then it turns out he's just talking to himself. And there's like nobody there. He's just imagining all this. And he says, "I wash my hands of this weirdness." My thoughts.
And then
exactly.
And then he jumps off the boat and tries to pull it towards the shore.
Yeah, he's just stranded in the middle of nowhere with just his ship and a bunch of sand.
And then a bunch of rocks that turn into crabs.
Yeah, Anakin would not like this scene with all that sand everywhere. And yeah, he like licks a rock and then throws it and it turns into a crab. And there's a ton of them, apparently. Rock crabs. If there were lobsters, I could make a rock lobster reference, but unfortunately, no. And then just a bunch of rock crabs show up and start carrying his ship away. What is going on? And this is a long scene, too.
It is.
This scene goes on so long, and it's our first time seeing Jack Sparrow in this movie. It's like, what the hell is this?
And I like how it's almost implied, because a bunch of these crabs show up and they carry Jack's ship to the ocean. And it almost makes it seem like he could have gotten out of there without the help of the entire crew that shows up to save him. And when that crew does show up, there's a pretty good scene where he just assumes they're all imaginary.
Yeah. He sees them again, thinks they're a hallucination. Then he says,
Why should I sail with any of you? 4 of you have tried to kill me in the past. 1 of you succeeded.
and he's also not happy that Barbossa is captain of his ship again. they like keep having these like little.
It's like a small rivalry. It's pretty good.
I called it a telescope measuring contest because they like pull out their like telescopes. Barbossa's is really long. Jack's is not very long. Innuendo, possibly. I also like that there was a callback to that first shot of Jack from Curse of the Black Pearl.
Oh yeah,
he's on the ship. And it's sailing because of the crabs. What the hell is this movie?
I also like during sort of Jack and Barbossa's.
Without a doubt, the weirdest pirate movie I have ever heard of.
I like how during Jack and Barbossa's rivalry, they have that scene where they're screaming, what are you doing? No, what are you doing? And then just the third one of the comedy relief pirates comes in and tries to become captain.
I was writing a surprising number of lines in this movie that I thought were funny. There was one really good line, actually, that was meant to be serious. Barbossa's talking to Jack. I think it's when they find the corpse of Amber Heard.
Oh, the dead Kraken.
They find the corpse of the Kraken. And Barbossa says,
The world used to be a bigger place. The world's still the same. It's just less in it.
kind of weirdly philosophical for a Pirates movie, though.
Yeah. There's quite a few other lines in there, like later when we see Keith Richards, there's their little exchange, it's not about living forever, Jackie, the trick is still living with yourself forever.
We are going all over the place with this one. Like, my notes...
To be fair...
This movie is all over the place, but do you want to talk about... I figure we might as well, since you brought him up, let's just talk about Keith Richards in this. Where the hell is that in my notes? Oh, yeah. Okay, so there's a pirate council, which I didn't even know they had one, and they're led by Keith Richards as a pirate.
Who's the keeper of the code.
That is brilliant casting. Like, even ignoring the fact that Johnny Depp based his performance in the first movie on Keith Richards. It's just so funny that they got Keith Richards to play a pirate. I mean,
and he looks like a pirate.
Yeah, he does. Even if he's not in this movie, he always looks like a pirate because he's got like that bandana on his head. It's a lot of pictures. And he even plays guitar at one point.
Yeah.
Which is so funny. I wonder, does he snort people's ashes with his cocaine? and he has his wife as a shrunken head. Which is...
Yeah, it's revealed that he's Jack's father, which is great.
He's barely in the movie, and he might be the weirdest character in this movie now that I think about it, but like, he has a lot of competition, though. I also like how the dog from the second movie is there, apparently, and he's like helping him unlock the book.
Yeah, it's just never explained how Teague found the dog that was stranded on the cannibal island.
Actually, they do. Sea turtles.
Oh, that's right, sea turtles.
If anybody ever asks me how I got somewhere, I should just say sea turtles. I think I did talk about Davy Jones a little bit, but one thing I thought was funny about Davy Jones is that he has to stand in a bucket of water in order to be on a beach.
No, that was so funny because they have sort of this standoff on a sandbar where they're all... Because it's, I think, Beckett, Davy, and Will Turner on one side, and then Barbossa, Jack, and Elizabeth on the other.
Yes.
And you can see a trail of buckets of water leading to the spot where they meet. Meaning that they had to, like, rules lawyer their way to get Davy Jones onto the bar.
Wow.
It's like, why don't they just do that so he can come to port more often? Just leave a bunch of buckets of water everywhere.
So funny. Oh, yeah, I was going to talk about Beckett a little bit. Okay, so I criticized the second one. I criticized Beckett in the second one because I called him boring at one point. Probably because he's not really in the movie that much, doesn't do much. In this one, he redeemed himself as a villain, I think.
Yeah, no, he's definitely the main villain, and he's a pretty good villain.
He's a pretty good villain in this. One thing I thought was great is that he's constantly talking back to Davy Jones.
Which takes some balls.
Yeah, I mean, anybody that's able to talk to Davy Jones like that, I'm like, holy shit, you know. That was like, that first scene with him and Davy Jones, that was the scene where I was thinking, you know what, this guy's growing on me. And I like the line where he says, this is no longer your world, Jones. The immaterial has become immaterial. That's a pretty good villain line right there.
Yeah.
Any scene between Davy Jones and Beckett, I thought was great, because he's like the only person in these movies that can get under his skin, it seems. I guess because he has his heart in a box, so that's probably why.
Yeah, he's basically just keeping him hostage.
Maybe it would be fitting if they put it in a heart-shaped box. Didn't think I'd make a Nirvana reference during this. At one point, one pirate says, "No water. Why is all but the rum gone?"
The rum's gone too.
Yeah, Gibbs like holds up an empty rum bottle and says, "Yeah, the rum's gone too." That was good. And we get the third movie in a row where Mackenzie Crook's eye pops out.
Yep.
And it's also stolen by the monkey again. And the way they get it back is so gross. Because Barbossa, like, gets it back and then puts it in his mouth, licks it, and then puts it back in his eye socket. It's so gross. I guess it is a...
And what I find is funny is that it turns out that it's a really important eye later on.
I don't remember that. Fuck.
Oh, it's one of the 9 pieces of 8.
I don't remember that.
You don't remember the 9 pieces of 8?
I remember them mentioning the 9 pieces of it. Oh, yeah, okay, yeah, they put it in the... I remember now. I thought you meant, like, it belonged to somebody, like, really...
Well, technically it belonged to Barbossa.
I remember that. Okay, so the Pirate Council, in order to get in, one of the things they do is they give them 9 pieces of 8, but really, it's just 9 pieces of whatever they have in their pockets or something like that.
And Barbossa's just happened to be this guy's eye.
Yeah.
So they're really lucky that this guy came along for the adventure.
That's so funny. I guess it's sort of the equivalent, the pirate equivalent of put your phone here in this little compartment while the meeting's going on. There's a part where the ship flips upside down. I like how when Jack is on his boat, he's like having an argument with all the crew members. He says, "Did no one come to save me because they missed me?"
And I like how the monkey, because it's the monkey, it's Mackenzie, and then it's the other pirate. They're the only ones to raise their hand.
I found it so funny that the monkey raised his hand. That was pretty good. And then Jack's like, "I'm gonna go stand by them." I might use this as the opening line, but when he's talking to Beckett, like Beckett says, "You're mad," and he says, "Thank goodness for that, because if I wasn't, this would probably never work." He like escapes on a cannon or something. One of his elaborate stunts, that he always does, because Jack Sparrow is the inspiration for Buster Keaton, I guess. I say that because Jack Sparrow was technically alive 200 years before Buster Keaton was. Because Jack Sparrow was a real person, right?
Oh, of course.
Accepted historical fact, right? I mean, the fourth one's authentic because it has Blackbeard in it, right? And I also like how he destroys a toy in a cannon that looks like Beckett. And how Beckett's ship is just falling apart when they're about to go after them, and one guy asks if he thinks Jack plans things out or if he just makes it up as he goes. Which, to be fair, that actually is a really good question. It's sort of like Indiana Jones, like...
I don't know, I'm making this up as I go.
Or is Jack just secretly a genius schemer that's able to escape from anything?
He definitely feels like he's making it up as he goes along.
Yeah. We also get more of Bootstrap Bill in this one.
Yep. Good old Will's father.
Yep, Will's father. And when we first see him, he looks like he's growing out of the ship.
Yeah. He's like he's a lot more barnacle-y than he was in the last one. He actually gets to talk with Elizabeth.
I like that this one carried over the gross look that the second movie had.
Yeah.
Like, they did a really good job designing Davy Jones' ship in this. I wonder, did the other members of the Monkees help him with that? Like, the costume and makeup on Bootstrap is great in this.
Yeah.
But you just feel really bad for him, too, because, like, you just see him here, just stuck to the ship, and, like, you're...
And he's obviously, like, losing his memory.
He's just... This curse has just taken so much of a toll on him.
Yeah.
Throughout these movies. Oh, the poor dude. And he also kills Norrington.
Yeah, that was a little weird.
I forgot about that scene. Because, what happened is, Norrington was, he was on the ship. Like, he's just... In the second movie, he basically betrayed them because he gave the heart box to, Beckett. But now in this one, he's trying to help them again, so people don't trust him, and then...
Yeah.
And then he just happens to be on Davy Jones' ship, and Bootstrap just stabs him to death.
Which is pretty unfortunate, but we get a pretty good interaction.
He tries to... Because he's trying to help Elizabeth escape during that scene. And I actually felt kind of bad for him.
Yeah. I do like his interaction.
It's amazing. He went from being probably the most hateable bastard in the first movie to actually trying to do what was right.
Yeah.
Only to get rewarded by being stabbed to death by someone he's never met.
I do like his interaction with Davy Jones, because Jones shows up and he does the whole "do you fear death" thing with him. And his immediate response is to stand up and stab Davy Jones.
Oh. Oh yeah, I remember that. He's like, I guess not, or something like that.
Yeah, and he says it's a nice sword as well, which is kind of fun. He appreciates Will Turner's handiwork.
Jack has a line that I really liked when he's talking to Will. I should use this line sometime. He says, "If I might lend a machete to your intellectual thicket." I didn't know Jack was so well spoken in these movies. And I also like, this is a detail about the Pirate Council, they have to stab their swords into a globe as a way of checking in. And also, like, when Elizabeth shows up, and one of them asks, "Where's the traitor?" And I think Barbossa says, "Not likely anyone among us." and Elizabeth asks, "Where's Will?" And then Jack says, "Not among us."
Yeah, I like getting to see some more of the pirates during the whole meeting of the pirate lords. Because some of them do have some pretty interesting designs to them.
Yeah, and they're also arguing a lot. Like, Elizabeth says at one point, "This is madness," and then Jack says, "This is politics." And also,
there's
just
one of them,
the fact you have just this huge war between all the pirates and the British. They have to get all of the pirates. All of them. And it definitely feels like they have a lot of pirates to work with. Like,
yeah.
This movie probably had so many extras that they had to pay.
So one of the, so I think it's the Indian Ocean Pirate Lord, just looking at the cast. But after they do the voting on who's going to become the Pirate King, he stands up, and it's the guy, he has like this huge beard, and you're expecting him to have like a deep voice. But he speaks, and he goes, "We shall go to war!"
Yeah, I remember that. The tone in this movie was a little bit weird, because sometimes it's really dark and serious, and then other times it's really goofy. This was both... In some ways, this was the darkest of the first three movies, but it's also the silliest
Yeah.
places. I will give the movie this. There are parts that benefit from the movie being, like, really epic and over-budgeted. Like, you can see the money on the screen. Like, you can tell this was an expensive movie. There's just this huge war between all the pirates and the British. It looks great. There's, like, a big whirlpool going on during all this. Like,
Elizabeth and Will are getting married during the fight.
oh my god, that was ridiculous. Yeah, they're, like, in the middle of fighting. They just asked Barbossa to do it for them, to, like, marry them. That was so ridiculous. Is that just this thing? Pirates can just marry people on a ship? Like, okay. Also, this is yet another movie where Jack ends up in jail.
Oh yeah, no, it happens. Doesn't it happen every movie?
I think it does, because it does in...
Because the beginning of 4 is him breaking out of a London prison.
Mm-hmm. He does in the 5th one.
Yeah.
He definitely does in the 1st.
He does in the intro of the 2nd one when he's busting out of the giant, like...
Right, yeah. Right.
Yeah.
He escapes from jail in every single movie. And that's also when he sees the gross version of himself made of barnacles. That was the point of the movie where I was asking how many Captain Jacks are in this movie. Nobody move. I dropped me brain.
I dropped my brain.
I will admit I actually was kind of sad when Will almost died.
Yeah.
You know, I've criticized his character a bit in the first 2 movies, but here I actually did somewhat care when bad stuff was happening to him. And also when Davy Jones had a sad death scene too.
Yeah.
You actually feel kind of bad for evil octopus crab man.
and I feel like that is boosted by the fact that we actually got his backstory in this movie. And we actually get to see him as a human for a brief time when he's talking to Calypso.
We see Bill Nighy with a beard. Which is pretty good. Yeah, who knew that an evil octopus crab man was such a romantic? And then this is also when they put Will's heart in the chest, and he's cursed to be the captain of the Flying Dutchman.
Yep, and he has to ferry the souls of the dead to the other side.
And he can only step on land once every 10 years.
Yep.
That does make me wonder, though, what happens when he comes on land on a day that he isn't allowed to?
Does he just explode?
Does he turn into Davy Jones?
Probably.
I don't remember. Did he turn into the octopus crab man because the witch cursed him, or what was that?
I think he turned into that because he stopped ferrying the souls and started using them as crew.
Oh, okay. That's weird. Hey, to be fair, life is cruel. Why should the afterlife be any different? And they also gave the chest to Elizabeth. Yeah, the one with...
Yeah. So she can protect him forever.
That is so fucked up that they did that. Like...
Yeah.
Because the first movie, it seems like they're just gonna get married and, like, be together, and then by the time you get to this one, you're like, oh... I guess...
They're technically married, but...
Yeah.
So why is Elizabeth not allowed to be on the boat? Because, I mean...
Yeah, that's a good point, too. I was
I mean, she's definitely a pirate at this point. She could just... I feel like she'd be cool chilling out on the sea.
I thought she was made captain of the Chinese pirates, so I don't know. That's weird. I guess they could have cut her heart out and put that in the box as well if they were that desperate. At one point, Beckett says, "Nothing personal, Jack. It's just good business." which is eerily close to a Michael Corleone line from The Godfather. By the way, if this movie was 9 minutes longer, it would be as long as that movie.
Oh, wow.
This is a long movie. I love Beckett's death.
It's really good in this. I love it. Just his ship is exploding around him as he stares in disbelief.
He doesn't know what to do, and he's just like, it's so grandiose, and it's kind of hilarious because there's just like wood flying everywhere and explosions everywhere. Everyone's just, it's just pure chaos around it, but he's just slowly walking down the stairs doing nothing. It's... I liked that video you sent me of, was it Everyone versus Lord Beckett or something? It was like...
I forgot about that video! That one's so good!
Like, Arnold is in there, Commando, Tony Montana, I think Neo from The Matrix is in it, and then they finally get the Death Star to destroy Beckett's ship. It's sort of like Multiverse, the movie. Like, the entire multiverse just decided to gang up on and kill Lord Beckett.
I mean, he deserves it.
He definitely does, yeah.
Oh yeah, they have the Red October fire a torpedo.
I don't remember what all is in there, but it was so funny.
Minas Tirith is firing upon him. There goes the holy hand grenade of Antioch.
Oh my god. And also I realized there's another Disney movie with a character named Beckett with shifty allegiances.
Oh yeah?
And that movie was Solo: A Star Wars Story.
Oh, that's right!
Why do I keep finding Solo: A Star Wars Story connections to these movies? And we finally see what Bootstrap looks like without the makeup.
Surprise, he looks like Skarsgård. Who could have seen that coming?
He looks a lot like Stellan Skarsgård. Wow, that's interesting.
Who would have guessed?
But yeah, it's a very bittersweet ending because, yeah, the main characters survive, but it costs them a lot.
Yeah.
At least Jack is okay.
Yeah. And off to start his quest to find the Fountain of Youth.
Which, unbelievably, yeah, that does tie into the fourth movie.
Yeah, no, I think that is interesting that they actually had the fourth movie follow up on that.
Because really, the fourth movie has nothing else to do with the previous three movies.
No. That is one thing that's interesting about this one. It's the only direct sequel in the whole Pirates franchise. Because everything else is, like, not really connected except for the second and third movies.
The second one does carry over from the first movie because, like...
I mean, it does a little bit, but it's like...
They get arrested because they helped Jack in the previous movie.
Like, there's a little bit of a connection, but it's not, like, super direct. Because it starts a different story than what was in the first movie, whereas this one carries over the plot from the second movie.
Like, if you watch the second one, you have to watch the third one. Like, you just have no option, but... The only ones that really work as, like, standalone films, I guess, are the first one and the fourth one.
Yeah.
I'm not including the fifth one, because why would you ever want to watch that movie?
I'm not even sure that one would make sense if you haven't seen the other ones, because you won't know who Barbossa is. And why he's so important.
Or why Will Turner's son is so important. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
To be fair, that one, also is not a standalone movie. So. But at World's End, it really does just feel like the end. And again, it probably would have been a good ending to the series.
Yeah.
Until they made 2 more of them. And possibly another one.
We'll see.
But yeah, I liked the ending with they set up the Fountain of Youth there. Jack stole part of Barbossa's map. He just cut it out in the middle and took it. And I like when he finds his ship is gone. he's like showing these two women. He's like trying
Oh,
to
yeah.
show him his ship. He's like,
Love, that is a dinghy. My vessel is magnificent and fierce and huge-ish and gone. Why is it gone?
and he like Gibbs is just lying there on the dock. He like pours a little bit of rum on Gibbs to wake him up, and then Gibbs is like, he's like saying, Gibbs, where's the ship? And he's like, we're on it. And then Gibbs wakes up and he's like, Jack, where's the ship is gone?
I like how Barbossa basically mutinied against him twice.
Yeah. That's kind of what I was saying with Barbossa's not really a good guy in this. And yet Jack still trusts him in the fourth one and the fifth one, despite all the shit they've gone through. Oh my god. Okay, so I think we can start getting the cons now. And this has quite a few. There's a lot of cons with this one.
So, something that we've said, I think, for each movie so far,
It's
it is
too
long. Like, this one especially.
It is nearly 3 hours long. And again, there's a little too much plot and too many characters.
Yeah. Which is it's part of the problem of making it really a two-part movie.
They're basically trying to put 10 pounds of manure into a 5-pound bag.
Yeah.
It got to the 2-hour mark, and I thought it was almost over. And then I saw there were over 40 minutes left.
Yeah, and it's like, oh, we got a while.
It kind of felt like they were trying to do an ensemble movie.
Yeah.
With this one, like, it's kind of like, it's one of those, like, big season finales or something. It's like the third season finale of the Pirates of the Caribbean theme park ride show or something.
It also takes a while for it to get into the main plot. Because
they spend so much of it trying to save Jack.
Yeah, it's like the first hour at least is spent saving Jack.
Jack is like gone for like 30 minutes. It's sort of like with Return of the Jedi, where they spend the first 30 minutes rescuing Han Solo. Except there's not that much action in the beginning of the movie.
There's a little bit when they're in Singapore, but after Singapore and until they start getting towards the council.
Yeah, but you compare that to
nothing.
Like Dead Man's Chest. The opening of that movie is ridiculous because they're on that island and there's like cannibals and all that. And even after they defeat Davy Jones, there's still over 20 minutes left.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my god, like... And again, just they have to accommodate all these characters and plot lines, so at points it feels a little unfocused. You can't watch this as a standalone film.
No.
You will be lost. If you haven't seen Dead Man's Chest, you aren't going to know what's going on in this movie. And even if you have seen Dead Man's Chest, there's still some stuff that you're like, wait, what just happened? What? Also, this movie claims that the Earth is flat, when Sir Bedivere clearly said that it's banana-shaped. Scientific inaccuracies. The tone of this movie is also more depressing than the first two.
Yeah, it's sort of all over the place, really, because when it's dark, it's like really, really dark. And then there's like some really unfitting moments of humor thrown in certain spots.
Yeah.
It's strange. It doesn't quite hit the right balance.
The first two movies I thought had a good balance with tone. Especially the first one, I thought balanced the tone pretty well. And I think this one might have veered a little too far into dark and a little too far into humor. So, Chow Yun-fat, I think he was underused.
Yeah.
He deserved more screen time. I liked his character. The color grading in this one was really desaturated, and
which is something interesting because we've said that in each one, and in each one it gets worse.
I thought the second one had the best color grading, actually, but This one, the color grading's worse than both the first two movies. And there's also more shaky cam in this one.
Yeah.
There's shaky cam during a few battle scenes. It's not too bad, but it was a little distracting. It didn't need to be there. Especially with the first two movies had like these huge grand sweeping shots and like you could clearly see the action and all that. And then this one you're like, "Oh my god, put that camera, keep the camera still. I'm going to get nauseous."
Go buy a tripod.
Is it because they were actually filming it on the ship and
During a storm.
the camera's rocking up and down? Also, where the hell was the jar of dirt?
Ah, yeah, no, our favorite character was gone.
Yep, my favorite character, once again, not given their due. There's a lot of exposition in this movie.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of just explaining what the background is. Like, you had the whole pirate court had to explain what they were and how they sealed Calypso. You had Calypso explaining Davy Jones's background. You had Chow Yun Fat explaining to Elizabeth who Calypso was.
You got the Pirate Council talking about all the rules and
there
stuff.
is so much.
Oh my god. It's way too talky compared to the first two movies.
Yeah.
The second one did have this problem a little bit, but it wasn't quite as egregious as in this one, especially since this one's a longer movie. Also, why do they need Jack so badly?
I think the reason that they talked about needing him was because he's one of the pirate lords, and so they needed his piece of 8.
Actually, the thing all you could have said is Johnny Depp's popular.
Yeah, they needed a half minute, or else they wouldn't have sold tickets.
And kind of jumping out of that point, the Kraken died off screen.
Which is pretty disappointing.
I was hoping there'd be like another huge fight with the Kraken, so that
where they find some clever way to actually take it out.
I guess they took it out in court, but Jesus Christ, I need to stop making Amber Heard jokes. So, was it Beckett that killed the Kraken? I wasn't even entirely sure on that.
So they mention it very briefly, but it sounds like Beckett ordered Jones to kill the Kraken.
Oh, goddamn it, I wanted it. Maybe it was a deleted scene and they cut it out for time.
Mm.
And the Kraken was one of the best parts of the second movie, too.
Yeah, no, it's such a shame that they just cut him out.
The Kraken destroying things, that was, like, really fun to watch. Also, the plot just didn't seem to flow naturally at some points.
Yeah.
It felt like another example of, then we get a scene of.
They kind of just stumble upon the solution to flipping the boat very fast, which felt a little weird.
And granted, they did have a lot of plot lines to wrap up in this, so, like, it's sort of like what happened with Game of Thrones, now that I think about it, this season 8. That scene with Jack making a deal with Beckett seemed a bit random and out of place.
Yeah, because they bring him on board, he fakes a deal, and then he jumps off the boat, and then he leaves, and then that was just sort of the end of that.
Problem is, there wasn't like a build up to it. It felt kind of like it was just placed in there, and I was a little confused. I did like Jack's line at the end of that scene.
You may kill me, but you may never insult me. Who am I? I'm Captain Jack Sparrow.
I thought that was funny. And also, this is another problem. I felt like this movie was trying too hard to have the characters be morally ambiguous.
Yeah.
it was hard to tell who to trust and whose side they were on, and there was just so much backstabbing and plotting against other people. It got kind of tiresome.
Yeah.
They make Will into a bit of a jerk in this one.
Yeah, no, he's kind of, I don't even know what the right word, he's kind of angsty throughout most of it. He doesn't trust Elizabeth. He doesn't trust Jack. He doesn't trust Barbosa.
Like, I get that he wants to, like, save his dad, and I mean, yeah, that's a good goal. But, like, he basically betrays them and works with Beckett and Davy Jones to save his father, and it kind of just seems to come out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Like, why does he just suddenly switch allegiances? It doesn't make sense. And then Elizabeth ends up betraying Jack and giving him over to Davy Jones. Like,
yeah.
They kind of make the main characters unlikable in this one.
Yeah.
I mean, at least with Jack, we know what his loyalties are. Himself and rum. I mean, these other two don't have an excuse. And another thing, I have criticized Will and Elizabeth a bit in the previous ones, but in the previous ones, their placement in the story made a little more sense, because the point of their characters was to provide a contrast to the pirates.
Yeah.
To, like, make them kind of the outsiders in the pirate world. In this one, they're just pirates.
Yeah, no, it's all pirates.
They basically made their characters pointless in this movie. In that regard. To paraphrase a Syndrome quote, when everyone's a pirate, no one will be. That being said, I do have a better appreciation for Elizabeth and Will after rewatching the next two movies in the series.
Yeah.
Because, to be fair, with all their faults, they're better, much better than the romantic couples in those two movies. Yeah, you get some callbacks to the first movies, some of which were unnecessary. Like, the two soldiers that get distracted in the first movie are in this.
Yeah, they just kind of show up for 5 minutes.
They're so shoehorned in. Like, what was the point?
The entire point was for it to be a callback. There's no other reason to have them.
It's sort of like when the You'll Be Dead guy shows up in Rogue One. It's just like, why was this necessary? Some of the action scenes went on a little too long and got a little too ridiculous. It is raining so much during these action scenes.
Yeah, it makes it a little hard to see what's happening.
Oh my god. Yeah, that's all I have for cons.
I guess my only other thing is it's sort of a pro, sort of a con. Like, there's aspects that I like about this and things that I don't. The East India Trading Company is a very interesting idea for a villain. They are very intimidating because, they're in control of Davy Jones. They're, like, in all the waters.
They're really
and they're kind of like
towards the beginning of the movie, and they get taken out really easily, now that I think about it.
Yeah. And, like, they are shown to be, like, a huge threat. And it's sort of like, oh, they're, like, the oppression and pirates are, like, freedom. But their goals are kind of nebulous. Like, obviously they want to control the sea so that they can control all trade. But beyond that, it's just kind of strange and not very well explained, because it seems like Beckett wants to have control over all these supernatural forces just so he can go sailing easier.
I guess.
It's a little weird.
Or you could just explain it with one word. Money.
Capitalism.
Yeah, I was basically, I was the same thing. Money. Sheesh, is this like a communist movie or something?
Made by our favorite communists, Disney.
Is Gore Verbinski a communist, maybe? Or I'm trying to remember, Rango, there was like some kind of whatever. Um, but yeah, so overall thoughts, unless you had anything else.
Yeah, no, that's it.
Okay, so overall thoughts. I think the best way to sum this movie up is when George Lucas saw the rough cut of The Phantom Menace. He said, you know what I'm about to quote, aren't you?
I am.
He said, "It's bold in terms of jerking people around, but I may have gone too far in a few places." Again, it's an enjoyable movie, but it is a struggle to get through some of it. Just,
Yeah.
you have to set aside its own day to watch it. You gotta prepare yourself a bit. Thankfully, I was somewhat prepared because I'd watched the second movie
Yeah.
about a week before, so I kind of knew what I was getting into. Because it's so long and drawn out. Things just, there's so many new plot lines and characters, some that get added to the movie. But again, the second one kind of made it so I was like, okay, I'm a little used to it, though, at this point. It's still a unique and idiosyncratic movie with a weird vision, weird characters, and just... it's just weird. I don't know what else to say. It has a lot of fun parts, too. The characters are still fun. I mean, if you like the characters, you'll probably like this, you know. There's some good action scenes. You just have to wade through a lot of plot. I think it would have been a good ending to the series if they hadn't made the next two.
Yeah. But I mean, you make another highest grossing film of all time, you're almost guaranteed to have a sequel.
But yeah, but overall, I think the first three movies work pretty well as a trilogy, so...
yeah.
There's that. Did you have anything else to add, or...?
Nah.
Okay, do you want to talk a little about the next two movies? Because I have a bit to say about the next two movies, because we're not doing them on the podcast.
No.
We're not giving them their own podcasts.
Yeah. The only things I really have to say, because I haven't watched either of these recently, I remember 4 being somewhat enjoyable. I remember it not being nearly as good as the first 3. I thought the choice of villain for that one was pretty fun.
Blackbeard, yeah.
Yeah. Plus, then having the Spanish come in at the end was pretty fun, because no one expects the Spanish Inquisition. And then 5, I remember being an absolute train wreck.
Yes, I will definitely talk a bit about 5. So, it was your idea not to do these two movies on the podcast. I went and rewatched them anyway, just because I was curious. I hadn't seen either of them in a while. They don't have the same director for either of these, so I'm like, yeah, and it shows. It shows. Although Gore Verbinski and Johnny Depp did do Rango and The Lone Ranger together, and parts of those feel like Pirates movies. It's basically just Johnny Depp doing his weird character again, so like... Okay, so... Stranger Tides, I have a story about when I saw Stranger Tides that I don't tell very often because it's kind of embarrassing. I saw it in the theater, actually. I don't know if you did or not, but...
I think I did. Because I know I saw the 5th one. I don't remember if I saw the 4th one.
I didn't see the 5th one in the theater, thankfully. But I saw on Stranger Tides in the theater. It was for a friend's birthday, and technically I hadn't seen 2 or 3 at the time. I'd seen parts of the first one on TV. So I had somewhat of an idea of what it was. and I'd seen trailers for Stranger Tides on TV. I was interested in it because the plot was about the Fountain of Youth. I was like, oh, that sounds kind of cool, you know. It's the only movie I've ever gone to see in the theater that I didn't stay to finish.
I think you might have mentioned this to me before.
Did I mention this?
I think you have, yeah.
Have I told you this story before? I can't remember.
I remember you mentioned you walked out of this movie.
Well, okay, walking out. Okay, I don't know if it if you stay in the theater but you don't watch the screen, does that count as?
Okay, yeah. Okay, yeah.
Does that count as walking out?
You stopped watching it, so we'll count it as you stopped watching it.
There was one part of it towards the. It's not for the reasons you might think. There was a part of it towards the middle that freaked me out so much that I didn't want to finish it. And anybody who's seen that movie probably knows which scene it is.
Is it the one where they were on Cortez's boat?
The scene with the mermaids. It's the scene with the mermaids.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about the mermaids. Yeah, that makes sense.
To be fair, I was 11 at the time.
Yeah.
And hadn't seen that many PG-13 movies. That tells you how long ago this was. You know, because you look at what we did on the podcast. We did Evil Dead Rise on the podcast. For fuck's sake. That movie's way more creepy than that. But yeah, that scene scared me so much, and I went and hid in the bathroom for a while. And then I came back and stayed away from the screen until the movie was over. So if that counts as walking out of a movie in the theater, then that's the only time I've ever done that. And the reviews of it were so bad that I never felt the need to watch the rest of it until a few days ago. I figured, hey, it's the only one I haven't seen in full. Might as well watch the rest of it. And it was okay. I thought it had a lot of neat ideas, but it didn't really do much with those ideas.
Yeah.
Blackbeard especially, I was like, oh, he looks and sounds cool, but they don't really do much with him. I did like the chemistry between Johnny Depp and Penelope Cruz. That ended up making the movie watchable, at least, which is more than I could say for the fifth one. I thought the movie started off pretty fun with, like, there's this great action scene in London that I liked.
Oh yeah, when they're doing sort of the prison break with Mr. Gibbs.
Yeah, he, like, disguises himself as a judge and stuff, and yeah. A lot of the other action scenes in this were just kind of forgettable. It didn't have the epic feel of 2 and 3 either. But I will give it this. It did try to go back to being a standalone adventure, sort of like the first one.
Yeah.
It just didn't do it as well. I blame the change of directors for that. There's less energy to it. It's missing a lot of the bizarre touches that the first 3 had, and it's also just kind of bland to look at.
Mm-hmm.
As much as I wasn't a fan of Will and Elizabeth in the previous movies, they replaced them with an even more boring couple in this. Some missionary falling in love with a mermaid.
Yeah.
I don't give a fuck about these boring aids. Also, I don't know if you remember this, the ending of this movie rips off Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade.
Does it? Oh, it does! Oh.
Blackbeard drinks out of the wrong cup and even dies in a similar way to Donovan. Because he turns into a skeleton.
And then you can't forget that the Spanish show up.
The Spanish are the main villains. Barbosa's also in this movie again, but he's playing a privateer instead of a pirate, which is strange, and they teams up with Jack towards the end. At the very least, though, it was a more straightforward movie than 2 and
Yeah.
3. Like, it had a pretty simple plot, and, I just kind of wish the execution was better. It was nice seeing Keith Richards in a cameo.
Yeah.
And there's some fun moments, mostly because of Jack Sparrow and Barbossa. But it's definitely not as enjoyable as the first 3, although it is a hell of a lot better than the 5th movie. And in case you're wondering, on this rewatch, yes, the mermaid scene, it was still creepy. It wasn't as traumatic on this watch. I'm too desensitized now. I still stand by, though. That is still a creepy scene.
It
I don't care
is.
what anybody says. Supposedly, it's the most expensive movie ever made.
Really?
Fuck off. How? How? And it made over $1 billion, too. One thing that is kind of funny in retrospect, the director of this movie also did the Little Mermaid remake.
Oh, really?
People who have seen both of these movies tell us in the comments which was the better mermaid movie, directed by the guy who did Chicago. I won't be watching it to find out because fuck Disney and fuck their remakes.
Yeah.
Stranger Tides was also the only one of the 5 movies based on a book, which is interesting.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And in case you're wondering, no, Jack Sparrow is not a character in the book. They basically just took the book and changed it to be a Pirates of the Caribbean movie. I did hear that they were thinking of doing a trilogy off of this one.
But it doesn't look likely.
I guess that didn't happen. I take it Penelope Cruz would have been the main villain in the follow-up movies then. I don't know. They kind of set it up like that towards the end. Instead, we got Dead Men Tell No Tales, which came out in 2017, 6 years after the 4th one. I don't even know why I watched that one. I mean...
I don't even know if bad begins to describe that one from what I remember.
My parents rented it from Family Video back when that was still a thing, and I thought it was really boring and forgettable. It's one of the closest times I've had to falling asleep while watching a movie. I've never fallen asleep during a movie. I wish I had during that one. And I tried watching it again a few days ago, and I couldn't even watch the whole thing. I had to skip through so much of that fucking movie. It was bad. Like, even Johnny Depp just looked bored. I mean, it's just...
Yeah. He looked like he was actually drunk throughout that movie, from what I remember.
It's like they thought Jack Sparrow's only character traits were that he's drunk and bumbling.
Yeah.
And even Javier Bardem wasn't that great in it. And he can play really great villains, too. No Country for Old Men. That's like one of the creepiest movie villains of all time. Or Skyfall, you know. And the only memorable traits about him are his appearance with the awful CGI hair. And the way he says, Jack Sparrow.
Jack Sparrow.
So weird. Even the action scenes were boring. I mean... The part with the zombie sharks, though, I thought was unintentionally hilarious. But aside from that, the only memorable stuff is, I guess, the sea getting parted at the end.
Yeah.
Like it's the 10 Commandments, and then Paul McCartney's cameo. I do like that whenever they have Jack's family members in these movies.
It's a musician.
Yeah, it's like a musician from the 60s. If they make another one, I'm half expecting, like, Robert Plant or Pete Townshend to be in it or something. And this one also falls for the Shrek 3 curse. Because one of the main characters is Will's son.
Yeah.
And he is boring. it's just retreads. I mean, the plot is so unoriginal at this point. Like, you watch it, you don't care what's going on in it.
Yeah.
The romantic leads are even worse in this one than they were insufferable. And it's shitty to look at, too. Like, there's so much CGI. It was awful. I'm glad we're not doing that one on the podcast. Although, to be fair, it should be more of a surprise that any of these movies were good, because...
Yeah, because they're based off of a Disney ride.
Yeah. I guess this proves when you base something on a Disneyland ride, you're going to run out of ideas. I kept hearing they might do a 6th one.
It doesn't look likely unless they want to just cut Jack Sparrow.
Like, I was hearing they were thinking of doing a spin-off with Margot Robbie, but then that got canceled. I mean, these things still make money, so I guess if Disney gets desperate enough, they can always try again.
Yeah.
If they do a 6th one, would you be interested in doing that on the podcast?
If they do the 6th one, we're gonna have to do the entire second trilogy. I'm sorry, that's just gonna have to be how it shakes out.
I don't want to sit through the 5th one again. I can sit through the 4th one. I can't sit through the 5th one. And that's even if it gets made. It probably won't get made for all I know.
Yeah.
Oh my god, what the hell happened to this series? Oh, right, money. That's what happened. I guess if you want, we could rank the movies. Do you have a ranking for them, or...
Honestly, probably 1, 2, 3.
And you don't even count the other ones.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
I think that's probably what my ranking is as well.
Yeah.
I was trying to decide if I liked Curse of the Black Pearl or Dead Man's Chest more. I think Curse of the Black Pearl wins slightly because it's more focused. And it works pretty well as a standalone film too. Like if Curse of the Black Pearl was just its own movie and there weren't any other sequels, I think it would still be it would stand up as a pretty good movie. So, but Dead Man's Chest I like as well. So yeah, it would be 1 would be Curse of the Black Pearl, 2 would be Dead Man's Chest, 3 is At World's End, 4 is On Stranger Tides, and then far down below those. The Bottom of the Sea, Dead Men Tell No Tales. Fuck that movie. But overall, I had fun revisiting these.
Yeah, no, those first 3 are very enjoyable.
I hadn't seen these in a long time, so it was nice that most of them held up over the years. And hey, at the very least, these movies reminded me why I wanted to be a pirate so bad as a kid. Hollywood needs to make more, like, swashbucklers, you know?
Yeah.
I'm tired of the superhero stuff. I need to bring back swashbucklers. And hey, I did get some closure on Stranger Tides, so there's that.
But yeah, I think that's it for me.
Now bring me that Horizon and really bad eggs.
Drink up me hearties, yo ho.
Good night, you stupid idiot. Good night, you miserable slob.